Hey everybody! Today we are with my Squidy C, and I wanted to talk about Balisong Maturity. Now, before I jump into it, I did want to give a big thank you to everybody for all the support recently. It's been incredible. But yeah, right into it. So, I wanted to talk about what I'm calling Balisong Maturity. And it's this idea that as you enter the Balisong hobby and you get better, your opinions will still change. So when you first enter the hobby, you think that whatever you have is good, pretty much. So you could get a $20 trainer off of Amazon, like I did, and think it's good because you don't have anything to compare it to. And you know, you'll buy something else later, for me, the Squidy C, and then you realize the first thing you had was not good, but now this new thing that you have is really good. In fact, it's not just really good, it's amazing, and you recommend it to everybody because it's the best flipping experience you've ever tried. But keep in mind, you've only flipped 2 different Balisongs, so one of them being the best thing you've ever tried doesn't really mean all that much. But, you know, that's not going to stop you. You're going to tell everybody how good it is, and or at least in your head, you're going to think that it's really good. And if you see anyone talking about it negatively, you're like, hey, what's up with that, man? That's a really good product. I love my whatever. But if you're like most people, you'll keep getting new Balisongs, and you'll probably get a new Balisong that is more expensive than whatever you had, and you'll think that the more expensive one is the better one. And you'll be like, wow, this is incredible. And then as you flip that new one, you'll get more used to it. And as you get more used to a certain Balisong, you tend to get less used to other Balisongs. So for instance, you might come back to your old trainers, and you might say, hey, this doesn't flip the way my other one does, therefore this is bad. And I think that's kind of the big thing that happens to a lot of Balisong, people in the hobby, is that as you try newer and more expensive Balisongs, the Balisongs that you used to use suddenly become bad. And a big part of Balisong Maturity is to slowly collect more Balisongs, or try more Balisongs, and eventually you'll get to a point that you find something that you know is good, but you don't like it. And that, I think, is a very big hurdle, is finding something that you can tell is good, you know it's high quality, or maybe a lot of people like it, but you don't. And that is where the Balisong Maturity starts to kick in, is when you realize that just because you don't enjoy flipping something or you don't like it, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it doesn't fit your preferences. For instance, with me, the Squidy C, when I first got it, I said it was great. I made a ton of videos talking about how good it was and that I recommended it and blah 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 blah. Then I got newer things and I moved on. I graduated. And then I was just talking about how much I really didn't like the Squidy C. I couldn't really recommend it, and I just didn't like it. But as time has gone on, I've realized that it's not that the Squidy C is bad. It's just that it doesn't fit my preferences. Now, I'm not saying I dislike it. I think that it does offer a good package. But that package and that flipping experience doesn't fit what I like. So, I've reached a point where I can say, hey, this is good. It has good things, it has bad things about it. But the way that it flips is not the way that I like to flip. And that is what Balisong Maturity is. Realize that something you don't like is just, it doesn't fit your preferences, because this entire hobby is about preferences. I mean, that's why things like zippy inserts exist, so that you can make a balisong fit your specific preference. It's not saying that this balisong is bad, therefore we need to change it and mod it. It's saying, hey, I don't like the way this is stock, but I want to modify it so that I do like it, because I like the way it looks, or I spent money on it, or I just want to have another flipper in my collection that I enjoy. And I think that in some ways it can be kind of good to keep something in your collection that doesn't really fit your preferences, just to kind of keep in mind that there are different preferences in this hobby, and just because you don't like something does not mean it's bad. I think another good example of this concept is Camaro E, blade bias. And if you go back on his main channel, I believe, on some of his older videos, he originally started with a Squidy Bee, and that was all he had for several months. And he, if I remember correctly, he really liked it. He said it was really good, and he recommended it. But now, and in a lot of his more recent stuff, anytime he mentions it, he talks about how much he doesn't like it, and how it doesn't fit his preferences. And that's that whole Balisong Maturity thing. He used to really like it when that was all he had, but then as he got better at flipping and as he got more balisongs, he realized it didn't fit his preferences. Not that it was bad, it just didn't fit his preferences. Now, I will say, I do believe at some point in Camaro EE's content, he does say that he doesn't like the Squidy Bee and he thinks it's bad, but more recently he has just said he's not a fan of how it flips, which is not saying it's bad. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I think the biggest thing that has to do with the Balisong Maturity is it's two things. It's getting new balisongs, and it's getting better at flipping. Because obviously you can get new balisongs and you could have a massive collection, but if you don't have any particular style of flipping, then you probably aren't going to care about the way things flip. But as you get better and you learn more advanced tricks, you find ones that you like and ones that you remember, and those are your go-tos. And if those go-to tricks do not go well with the balisong you're using, then you're not going to like that balisong. For instance, if let's say if I wanted to do a Z choker on this, I feel like I have to really think about it. I can't just do it, even though I did one earlier, but the feeling is not exactly the same in my hands. Another one I think would be, nope, that one was fine. Aerials on this one sometimes feel that way, especially that pinky catch is they're very floaty on this balisong. And that's what I mean. If you have to change your flipping style to match a balisong, you probably won't like it. But the Balisong Maturity is realizing that just because you don't like the way something flips doesn't make it bad. And just because you do like the way something flips, that doesn't make it good. This whole hobby is about preferences, and a lot of us need to realize that those preferences are valid, but those preferences do not make something good or bad. It could be good or bad for you, but that doesn't mean that you don't want to recommend it to people. For instance, the Squidy C, I don't like the way it flips. I think if you're someone who likes handle bias, you're not going to like it. But if you're someone who likes a more neutral, light balisong, you probably would be a much bigger fan of this flipping experience. I, however, am not someone who likes that. Another big thing with the Squidy C, if you do not like centralized weight, and especially if you don't like weight at the ends of your blades, you won't like it. That's my biggest complaint with it. All the weight at the end of the blade. That's the biggest thing that stops me from liking it. And I think the biggest thing that makes it feel so weird. But that was pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I don't really want to get into my thoughts on the Squidy C. Just kind of wanted to talk about Balisong Maturity. As you grow as a flipper and as your collection grows, you'll go through the stages. Just to recap, the first stage is you think everything is great. Whatever your most expensive thing is that you have is amazing. Second stage is getting better and saying, hey, I don't like this, it's bad. And the third stage is realizing that, hey, I don't like this, it's not bad, it just doesn't fit my preferences. And that is becoming mature with Balisongs. So I hope that you've all enjoyed. Remember to leave any video suggestions in the comments down below. I do read all comments. I respond to almost all of them. If I don't, it usually means I'm saving it for later. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. And until next time, I hope that you all keep flipping.